What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another Reddit reading video. Today we're going to be doing a beautiful r/malicious compliance video, and I really hope we see some good compliance today. This first one is going to be like, well, I think it's from an article. Here it is, about Filet-O-Fish McDonald served a local burger joint with a cease and desist. This is the tiniest little itty bitty story that I have ever seen. Some parts are copied from the source we just saw. Paul Shuffett, the owner of a chef behind the local Woodshed Burgers restaurant, wasn't loving what he saw when he opened up his email on Wednesday. In his inbox was a formal cease and desist from McDonald's restaurant of Canada over one of his restaurant's burgers, the effing Filet-O-Fish. In compliance with the cease and desist, Shuffett renamed his burger to the McEffin Fish Fillet, his flippant way of complying with the massive company's cease and desist. Your turn, lawyers. Would be funny if they were in the EU. McDonald's lost their trademark to Big Mac, so he could call it Big Mac and they couldn't do anything about it. Wow. Stick it to the man, stick it to McDonald's. And hey, he followed the rules. He did change the name, that's all they asked. That was a short story, now we're moving on to a medium. This one just looks like it's about to be fantastic. Stars and golds and platinums is everywhere. 15,000 upvotes. This better be the best story I have ever read on this channel. You want a meeting to discuss our phone account? Okay, let's have a meeting. I'm not sure if this belongs in petty revenge or malicious compliance, for there's a little of both. So sorry if this has been put in the wrong place. Either way, I've enjoyed my malicious revenge compliance, so I hope you do too. For the past few years, our business has been receiving telemarketing calls from an offshore call center trying to make an appointment for Optus Business Center. Every time they call, we'd politely tell them we're not interested and to remove us from the list, and they'd promise not to call us again. You could probably tell by my words every time that having ourselves removed from the list didn't work. It didn't work the first time, it didn't work the 50th time. Offshore are cheap, and they get paid per appointment, so they are quite aggressive. It was clear a new strategy needed to be found, as it was taking too long for them to bugger off. So began my campaign for malicious compliance / petty revenge. Hi, we're calling the Optimus Business Center, and we can save you 40% on your mobile phone bill. Can we come and see you tomorrow at 11 AM? You can save me 40% on my mobile bill? That's 60 grand a month! What? How many phones do you have? 150 or so that I'm responsible for directly, plus a few others. The appointment is quickly confirmed. The next day, a salesman calls up and he's running early. We can meet earlier. I refused. Our appointment is at 11 AM after all. 11 AM rolls around and he walks in. We sit down in reception and go through the greetings. I then ask him if it's possible to make a telemarketing call stop now. He assures me that it is. And so I stand up, shake his hand, and thank him for coming. What? That's it? You could have said that over the phone. I point out that we did, many times, and it didn't work, and I hope that this waste of his time, 45-minute trip to Homebrush, Sydney, would perhaps teach him to mend his ways. Over the past 2 years, they have sent out 5 different reps to see us. They call for meetings, we accept them, shine them on about the value of the account, and they roll in to be greeted by me, dressed in a chicken suit, made to wait in our meeting room for 20 minutes before being asked to be removed from the list, being turned away at the door. They sent 2 reps that time. I'm posting this today because it was visit number 6, and it was the best one yet. We got a repeat customer. I sat him down in the meeting room and played the video recording of our last meeting. Is that you? Yes, it's me. Didn't I follow up? Did we have a good meeting? I point out that I certainly enjoyed our last meeting, and zoomed in forward to the video to the part where I explained we didn't have 500 mobile accounts. I needed to please remove us from the list, and you could see his heartbreak, which it did, again, once he realized that whatever account he thought was being discussed today was not going to be discussed, which we also have on video. So we can go all Inception if/when he shows his face again. This is the kind man in his chicken suit. What a brave soldier. Wow, that is some good compliance right there. Setting up that meeting, that is kind of more of a revengey, petty revenge, slightly pro-revenge, 6 times in a row, and having this Inception film is a little bit pro-revenge, I'm not gonna lie. Good on them though for getting those telemarketers like that. I wish I could do something like that. This has like almost little to nothing to do with what I just read, but yesterday I saw this video on Reddit where these people called Domino's and called Papa John's and like made them talk to each other over the phone. It was hilarious. They were like, "This is Papa John's, would you like our deal?" He was like, "No sir, this is Domino's, would you like our deal?" Alright, I need to stop before I start rambling. This is our large or long story for the day. I don't know if it's large or long, I just see the L right there. Send in a shoddy application and tell us to just make do. You got it. So this just happened today. First, a little bit of backstory and context. I work for an agency that specializes in disaster relief. I'm basically a professional nitpicker, and it works like this. When a town or city or some other place suffers from some kind of disaster and want to get reimbursed for the damages and repairs expenses and like that, they contact us and send in an application. This application has to include certain kinds of documents in order to be eligible for any funding. And some of those documents have to be laid out in a certain way. For example, if you have to hire a bunch of laborers to help clear debris or something, you have to tell me who worked and how many hours on which day, how much they were paid per hour, how much they were paid in total, that sort of thing. If your application gets to me and it doesn't have the bells and the whistles, one of three things happens. Your application is rejected, your application is sent to the chain minus whatever can't validate, meaning you get less money than what you were originally asking to be reimbursed for, or I send it back to you to be reworked. I usually do everything I can do to avoid the first two because I know how hard it can be to recover from disaster when you have to pay for stuff out of your own pockets. But today, I made an exception, courtesy of some good old-fashioned malicious compliance. So I get this new project. It lands on my desk with a thud. It's an application from a small rural town and only a few hundred people that's heavily damaged by severe rains and flooding. Trees knocked over, power lines destroyed, you name it. They got hit real bad and had to hire a lot of people to help clean up afterwards. They were applying for over 20 grand in reimbursement. Anyways, I'm parsing through it, going over the checklist, making sure everything is in order. About 5 seconds in, I realized that whoever put this garbage pile of the project together either didn't know what they were doing or didn't care enough to find out. Shoddy or missing paperwork, broken files, incoherent notes and add-ons, you name it. So I make a list of all the things that were wrong with the project and I call up the project supervisor. In other words, the guy the town hired to put the application together to see if he and I could work together to fix them. I tell him I won't be able to validate the project for the full dollar amount with what I've been given. But the guy cuts me off, calls my competence, intelligence, and professional integrity into question, accuses me of trying to stiff the town, and calls me several choice names. He ends by saying I'd better make do with what I've been given, and it's not his job to do anything more than what he's already done. I'm pissed, but I hang up the phone and go talk to the boss. I asked the boss what I should do. I already knew what he was going to say, but I wanted to make sure I covered all my bases. Sure enough, he sympathizes. Tells me to validate whatever cost I can and ignore the rest. I tell him that doing this will result in a drastic reduction of the amount of money the town received. He tells me it's not the agency's problem if the project supervisor refuses to cooperate. Malicious compliance activated. I go back to my desk, I do exactly what the boss instructed. I validate the cost that I can and ignore the rest. I dang well make do with what the project supervisor has given me. Just like he said, the amounts to little over $5,000. I double check my work, then triple check before kicking it up to the chain for final review. The whole project was done and dusted by lunchtime. I also know I'm going to get an earful from the project supervisor, and I'm not disappointed. Around 2 in the afternoon, I get a call from him. As soon as I pick up, he starts ranting at me. As soon as he does, I call the boss over. I tell him my boss is on the line, and the boss basically tells the guy it's his own stupid fault. The project supervisor doesn't care and continues to scream at me. He says that I'm trying to cheat him by leaving him out the missing funds. He finally pauses because he has to breathe. I smile and tell him that he'll have to make up with what I've given him and that it's not my job to do anything more than what I've already done. I hang up before he can say anything else. Then I call up the guy's town city hall who hired the project supervisor and let them know what happened and exactly who to blame. And since this small town gossip spreads faster than the bubonic plague, I bet you anything the project supervisor will find himself on the receiving end of the entire town's hatred by this time tomorrow. And he deserves it. Wow, I wonder if that affects how much the guy is gonna get paid. Like, I wonder if he gets paid a commission of that amount. First of all, that sucks for the city that put in that relief money, but they'll probably cover the rest, not gonna lie. Cities have a lot of money. Even small towns have a lot more than normally people expect. But that guy got some crazy compliance revenge. This seems like revenge. This is like, it's always way more satisfying when someone tells them a line that tries to ruin their day, and then they go and just say that line right back, and they're like, what? Just speechless. Copy my answers? Have fun with that F. So this just happened today at school, so it's still fresh in my mind. We were in algebra and we were taking a test. The teacher was out in the classroom for a bit, and someone asked for the answers. Now, I had secretly hated this kid for almost a year because he had destroyed my $210 phone and only paid me back $20 and said, hopefully this will be enough for the screen protector. So, anyways, it turned out that he skipped the question, so he accidentally had about 75% of the answers in the wrong box, making them all wrong. He asked me to erase them for him so he could copy my answers because his arm hurt. I was just about done with mine, so I finished and erased his, but instead of giving him the answers, I turned my paper in. He now has 5 to 10 minutes to answer about 30 questions. The teacher had walked back in while he was pleading with me and asked what was going on. I told him David was trying to copy my answers. No regrets. Edit, getting a lot of comments about how he broke my phone, so here's the story. I try to keep it brief. We were at a youth group at our church, I'm Catholic, and was scrolling through my photos to show to my friend. I scroll past one of David looking very less than good. Friend starts laughing and tells me to go back to that picture, so I do, and he starts just dying laughing. A few more people came over to see what was happening, and one of them was David. He sees the picture and just snatches my phone out of my hand and runs to the bathroom. I'm banging on the bathroom door and telling him, "Give me my phone back." He runs out of the bathroom while I'm screaming at him and holding it in his arm. He then just slams my phone into the ground. The screen was completely shattered and the home button didn't work. Oh look, there's the phone. Screw you, David. Well, that's some pretty good compliance right there. He went all the way with erasing his answers and then giving it back to him. He got some big cojones for that. David pretty much deserved it for freaking out like that and not being able to control his fragile emotions. To be fair though, if it wasn't for my friends, I always had one of my best friends in my math classes. If I didn't have them in there, I would never have passed high school. Shout out to my friends. Next story is ex-wife tells me take handling the kids more seriously. So I did. This is a mix of revenge and malicious compliance. Hopefully this is the right place. Background, kinda long but also important. So I'm happily the voice dad of two beautiful kids, a 5-year-old girl and almost a 4-year-old son. My ex and I met at a home state of Illinois. She was a Navy brat, so our family is from Texas. We fell in love very quickly, got married after a year, and was expecting my daughter after 3 months. My son followed almost 4 to 6 months after my daughter was born. A month after he was born, I found out she was cheating on me with at least 5 guys. Later, I found out it was around 8. Obviously, I filed for divorce. I got the lawyer, changed my banking accounts, and presented her the papers. The first copy was rejected for a reason I can't quite remember. Upon revision, I had my lawyer also change the custody from me having the kids to every other weekend to every single weekend. Much to his surprise, she signed it. We shared the kids accordingly. She was super pissed, but there was nothing she could do about it. And when she/I could no longer afford to live in the state, she moved back to Texas. Fast forward 2 years, without seeing the kids, I couldn't afford to see them, except one Christmas. I got out of the Navy, moved back home, and I got the kids for 3 months. I was appalled by their development delays. Both kids were rated the bottom 5% of the kids their age. My daughter didn't have a clue about potty training at 3, barely speaking, and had no awareness of adult authority. My son was not even close to walking, non-verbal, wouldn't eat most meats, and was afraid of grass. When I returned them, my daughter would listen to adults, was potty trained, was speaking in almost complete sentences. My son was walking, saying some words/hand signals, and eating a variety of different foods. I worked my butt off to get them there. Also, I spent a lot on 2 times a week therapy for both kiddos. Money well spent. Anyways, I stayed in Illinois for about 1.5 to 2 years, gathering up enough money to move to Texas. I had a little amount saved, but I started dating a girl who I came to find out also wanted to move to Texas. So we pulled our money together and moved down. Almost done with the background, guys. We got moved down to Texas and lived at a hotels for a month. Found jobs, found a place, and moved in. I work in a sales position in a large bulk type store, and my girlfriend works at a sandwich place. At this time, my ex and I are not going by the divorce decree custody days because of convenience. Well, a person ended up quitting the job, and I had to take their hours. So my girlfriend got permission to bring my kids to her work. The GM loves them. Well, they were being toddlers, and she texted mutual friends of my ex and me asking if she could watch the kids for a few hours. That got sent to my ex. My ex and new hubby got pissed, and they came to my work and chewed me out for saying I need to take the kids' well-being more seriously. Roger that, suckers. Now, I realized I messed up that day. I was not mad at what they said. I was pissed at the fact that they did that in front of my trainee, a customer, and coworkers. Malicious compliance/revenge. During my setup phase, I was not paying for full child support, which was kind of them, but that ended because I was now taking things more seriously. The next morning, I talked to my boss, told him what had happened, and informed him that I could not work at the time specified on my divorce decree because now that I'm taking things more seriously, I will now have these kids every weekend. He then transferred my ex the remainder of the child support, informed her that she was right and I needed to take things more seriously. So I will be by after work to pick up the kids for my court-appointed custody. She was confused, but agreed. Then I called her on Friday evening to see if she had everything prepared for the weekend stay. Medications for my son. She flipped out, saying that we had plans all day Saturday and church Sunday morning. Then she screamed, "What the F are you making these demands all of a sudden?" Well, I'm just taking the kids and our agreements more seriously. I ended up letting them have the kids Saturday and picked them up Sunday morning. I then informed my ex and hubby that we would need at least a week's notice for any change in plans on weekends in case we had things planned. generally if they wanted to do something special with the kids if we didn't have plans even the last minute. Since I was taking things more seriously, my girlfriend and I kept every meticulous record of any injury, diaper rash on my daughter from not wiping correctly, physical appearance upon pickup. We would treat said rashes, note any changes in a little black book, and then take a photo of the pages and the timestamp. When they returned, we would then note any worsening of the rash or non-treatment. We also signed the kids up for more therapy since they were still very much behind. This went on a few months until, surprise, my ex had enough and brought me to court, forced the changes she wanted. I presented the judge with everything. The doctor's notes I had from day one, the doctor's notes from my ex with conflicting information. These notes were things that she would tell the state-funded therapist for my son, as well for all the expenses for the therapies I was giving my kids. Then I showed our notes, the printed timestamp of the photos, and then many times any rashes would be present or worsen when we got the kids. My ex broke down into tears since she brought her entire family and several friends for support. The increase of the child support she wanted was shot down, and instead was almost half since I was making less than I was prior. The expenses I had for the kids, and my overall time for the kiddos. The change in sole custody she desperately wanted? Well, the judge ordered it to stay the same, with the change of alternating Sundays. Slightly annoying. Walking out, she asked me through the tears, "How could you do this to me?" To which I replied, I was taking things with the kids seriously. Edit, I have never restricted my ex from the kids. If she wants to have them for whatever reason, and I have no plans, I will let her take them from my time. Edit 2, for all you suckers who are saying I neglected my kids by not seeing them for 2 years, I was in the Navy. I tried to see them, my leave kept getting denied because of my medical BS. I FaceTime them every day. I requested to say goodnight to them whenever I was able to. If you have never been in the military, it is hard to understand how hard it is to get leave. I can attest to that last statement. My wife is in the military and she wanted to take 3 leave days for her birthday. They were like, 1, take it or leave it. She was like, what? When it was her, she was turning 21. This is like last month. She was turning 21 and she was just like, I want to have the day off afterwards because I want to have my first, legal drink. Legally. So yeah, they do have a hard time getting off for leave. That was like, I really thought it was going to be like petty revenge, like during the background and like the beginning of the revenge. It didn't really seem like it was going that far. But when he started documenting all the things about the kids and taking pictures and timestamp, I knew that was going to be some very hard malicious compliance. He took it very, very seriously. But honestly, the wife deserves that. It almost sounded like they were neglecting / abusing the kid to an extent. So bringing all that and noting it up is just like, he should have done that in the first place, but it's good that he got it done. Kids don't deserve that. My thought is like, kids don't deserve, even little kids, if they do bad things, they don't deserve to be treated badly. They don't understand. They're just kids. Alright, that was a long story, so we're going to do 2 more short ones. I said short, but this one says medium. The next one says short. They're both pretty small. That way I don't talk you guys' ear off for 36 hours. No, I'm just kidding. But this r/malicious compliance is a nearly 200 person MC. This took place around 2012-ish. The pride of high school was always a marching band. For the reason that the band was a quarter of the nearly 800 students at the school, we had about 185 students of the year when this compliance happened. So every year, the band went on a trip out of state to compete in a Bands of America competition. It was a trip everyone looked forward to. We did a ton of fun things, missed a week of school, and the last day there competed for a professional stadium. The band director would call and schedule things for us so we don't randomly show up at a mall or McDonald's or do something and him throw 200 kids at them. We had called ahead at the mall to work out eating at the food court, and that was the easiest while we were traveling there. He usually planned these in the trips when it was time for the bus driver to rest for a couple hours, and we were allowed to get food and shop in the mall. So we get to this point in our trip and we're given a speech to behave ourselves and reminded that the consequences if we don't. We go inside and start shopping and eating, and then everyone gets stopped by the mall security. Then, over the intercom system, it was announced for the city high school students to come to the front of the mall area. They said they had a rule that didn't allow kids to be in the mall past 6th, not even with adults. Not even a quarter of us have eaten. No one had caused problems, yet they wanted us out. My band director gets a hold of the person that he planned it with, and they agree if we go in 5 kids to every adult, we can continue as planned. The cheeky grin on the security guard's face said, there's nearly 200 students. You would need 40 adults, and you only have 7. It's forever burned into my head, as is the drop of the face of my senior. Raised his hand and said, I am 18, I count as an adult. And then all of us, 18 and up students, stood up and started pulling out IDs. Smug, the security guard checked every ID and gave out wristbands to the adults. We had enough 18-year-olds that we technically didn't need chaperones that came. So they all sat around and watched us 18-year-olds hand out 5 kids. And no harm came to them all. The security guard was very grumpy, And had the adults needed, we would have gotten our food. We got our food. I bought suspenders and a panda hat from the Hot Topic, like I did every band trip. And we placed fairly decently that year. What an absolute terrible rule. Yeah, that is a horrible rule. The mall where I live, I think it's past 7 o'clock. After 7 o'clock, like, everyone that's underage has to get out of the mall and they'll check ID cards. They're always looking at me suspiciously, and my wife, because my wife looks like she's like 12. And I have braces, so I look like I'm like 10 sometimes. Not 10, but like 13. Also, I don't really have that much facial hair or anything, so it's just like, I don't look grown, we don't look grown, so they're always evil-eyeing us, and I'm like, get out of our way. That's nice though. I bet they feel like they won the day on that one. Last one is hold my check. Okay, let's cash it instead. And then I'll deposit the cash. So this was a few years ago. My terrible bank at the time had a policy about check deposits. Over a certain amount, maybe 500, they held them for 24 hours. Well, I got paid on Friday by my check. It was a small employer that didn't offer direct deposit. So every 2 weeks, I went to the bank after work. The tellers were still working, but apparently the processing day was over. So my 24 hours didn't start until Monday, and my money would finally be available Tuesday sometime. This was super frustrating, especially when the rent was due Saturday or Sunday. But the bank's policy allowed them to cash any check for customers as long as they had at least as much in their total accounts, which I did in savings. So this became my routine. Get paid, go to the bank, have them cash my check down to the penny, and then immediately deposit that cash, except for maybe 40 bucks. As you can imagine, this took the teller noticeably longer and simply depositing my check, but hey, policy is policy, right? That sucks. What a terrible bank. Navy, I've been with Navy, was it Navy Federal? That credit union, I think they're really good. If you have any suggestions of subs or stories that you want me to react to or read over, just let me know down in the comments. I take submissions all the time. We're going to read the first 3 stories that come up on Malicious Compliance. So we have, let's open up 3 tabs. Let's duplicate these. So boom, first one is going to be learned real quick about malicious compliance while doing high-end construction. That's going to be our first one. Second one's going to be, sorry boss, I don't speak Spanish. The third one is going to be, you want me to see a doctor? Boom, we have our stories of the day. We let luck and people's upvotes decide them. Now these better be fantastic. No, I'm just kidding. I don't doubt that these are fantastic. Almost all of them are really good, especially if they're at the top of the sub. Like I said in the last video, that was a one-off video. It didn't get really that many views, but I just, it was a topic about Reddit and robot reading videos. I just thought that it would be like fun to do it. It was fun to do it. Didn't get many views, but at least I had fun. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. Learned real quick about malicious compliance while doing high-end construction. Years ago, I was doing construction for a casino in the restaurant portion, while another company was doing work on a hotel. The generic contractor was notorious for being a dick and insisted no extra work was to be done without prior written authorization and approval by the owners and architect. Basically, follow the plans exactly. This happens from time to time and usually find little mistakes and submit an update and approve the added expense. Not this time. 10 floors were built exactly per plan. The top 2 were luxury suites, marble floor to the ceiling in the bathrooms, really expensive stuff. Towards the end of the job, they are walking off the suite. Probably 95% of everything is done. Where's the light switch in the bathroom? Head electrician just smiles. None were in the plans, sir. We followed the plans to the letter. Just like he said, no lights, no switches. We could hear screaming several floors down. They ended up having to rip out marble in every bathroom to run a pipe for wire and the lights and switched. But didn't lift a finger until we were guaranteed in writing that we would be paid for the extra work. Well, that's pretty much what he gets for being a jerk and being like, no, don't do extra stuff, don't try and help, don't try and fix things, let me screw myself over and get you guys paid a little bit extra. I'm sure this one was a big winner for the person implementing the malicious compliance. Good on him. Followed the rules, did what he was supposed to do, and got a little bonus check out of it. Is it me or was this one like really small? That is a very small story. Good, small and satisfying. I like that. It just sucks that a lot of the small stories never get gilded just because they're little, I guess. People like to gild the bigger ones. Speaking of larger stories getting gilded, we got a large or long. I don't know if it's large or long. I never know. But it's gilded. Sorry, boss. I don't speak Spanish. I work at a hotel as a night auditor, and this malicious compliance begins with a small bit of information I was told when I was initially hired for the position. When I was interviewed for the position, this was very important later on. I was told by the HR lady that the hotel paid a bonus $100 for each foreign language I spoke well enough to serve our guests. Management cleared my $100 for speaking English after I passed through the evaluation period. My main language is Portuguese. At first, I was glad to be working the night shift, mostly because my colleagues then, Mr. Castillo, was from Guatemala, so whenever any guest that spoke Spanish showed up, he handled it, and in turn, I handled any English-speaking foreigners. Naturally, he did a lot more work since the amount of Spanish-speaking guests was significantly larger than our English-speaking ones. Meanwhile, Mr. Castillo was in the process of learning English, and I had taken an interest in Spanish, so we helped each other out. Not long after, Mr. Castillo got a job paying several times over what the hotel did, and sadly, left me. My new colleague, a newly promoted bellboy, didn't speak English, though he could understand some, and didn't speak Spanish at all. In fact, he didn't even try to improve any of his language skills while I slowly kept improving my Spanish, trying to use more and more of it every day to serve our dear guests. As I started this month, I spoke to our front desk manager and asked him in plain Spanish what did I have to do exactly to receive my $100 bonus for speaking Spanish. He was surprised but said nothing more since the front desk got busy with checkouts and my shift was up. But a few days later, he mentioned that he spoke to HR and informed them I was speaking Spanish well enough to receive my bonus. And now, he was just waiting to hear back from them. A few days later, the HR lady asked me what size shirt I wore, since we were going to be ordering new uniforms in the coming weeks, and took the opportunity to ask her about my bonus for Spanish, and she mentioned they were talking to our director about it. A day later, she informed me that they wouldn't be paying me for my bonus for a foreign language since it was on file that I was already receiving it. I replied I was receiving a bonus for English, not Spanish, and she would speak to the director again within a few days. All would be made well. Now, I was really in a hurry to get my bonus, but it would be really nice if they cleared it already, as it showed up in my next paycheck, but guess what? They didn't. Our director talked to HR again, and my boss told him, even though I'm serving our dear Spanish-speaking guests in Spanish, I don't in fact speak Spanish. I am far from fluent, but I can explain how the hotel works, direct guests to where they need to be, and assist them on what they need. Be finding a pharmacy at 3 a.m., getting a cab to go out to get drinks, or even hire an escort. Yep. But apparently, it isn't good enough for our director and the managers who said we really can't afford to fight him on it. Okay, no biggie, I guess. Maybe we'll try next year, when I can speak a little better. However, the cruel and unforgiving gods of the hotel industry gave me the perfect opportunity to strike back. Earlier last week, we received a large group of 30 plus Spanish speaking tourists, which in addition to our normal occupancy, meant we are effectively sold out for the week. Big groups are usually minor inconvenience when you're checking them in, but even bigger problem when they're checking them out. Especially if they're one person per room, which means you basically have a huge lot of rooms to check out, one by one. While an endless line forms in the front desk, 80 plus checkouts are unusual for our hotel on Friday mornings, but 110 plus is a problem. Normally, when the morning shift has a workload this big, our front desk manager comes in nearly to help. But he couldn't this time, since he took a personal day since his mother fell ill. That left our night director with just one choice: to ask a night audit to stay late to help until our reservations people clocked in and could then replace us at the front desk. See, my colleague doesn't like staying late, especially since he works a second job with his new father in the afternoon, meaning he only has the morning and early afternoon to sleep. I don't like staying late on Friday nights because of the amount of checkouts, which means it'll be forever before you can take a break, or even more so before you can leave. However, this time our director didn't even ask my colleague and instead told me to stay late because we would have a sizable workload and about a third of it would require someone that spoke Spanish, or it would slow down everything to a crawl. I told him I wouldn't be staying late that morning, and before I can get another word with him, he started yammering about how I'm wrong and I should be more of a team player and that we would be very grateful for it. Wanting to get back to my sleep, I told him to ask my colleague, and he said he couldn't, that they needed me. When I asked him why, he clearly stated, we need 2 Spanish speakers that morning to make sure everything goes okay with the checkouts. Not one for missing an opportunity to get payback, I replied, sorry boss, I don't speak Spanish. Turned off my phone and went back to sleep. Update, sorry for holding on in the aftermath. I wrote this during my work shift and I was putting on the finishing touches. We had a server crash and I spent the next hour and a half trying to restore our backups and get the camera system up again. Update, aftermath. After I woke up and turned my cell phone back on, I had several missing calls from the hotel and 2 missing calls from our front desk manager. Good guy. I called back at the hotel that afternoon, shift picked up, and they didn't know anything, so I called my manager's phone. He answered and asked what was going on because the director was furious about me hanging up on him and that I was refusing to work. I explained to him the situation in regards to my bonus for speaking Spanish, and since the hotel was trying to hold me out, I was going to withhold performance. Anyone who's ever worked for customer service know how much damage withholding performance can do, even if it's just a little. In the end, my manager begged me to stay until our reservations people came in at 8 a.m. My shift ends at 7:20 a.m. I agreed on the condition that I would not check out anyone who spoke Spanish. He reluctantly accepted and said he would back me up in the following poop storm that would happen. What happened was the group came down for breakfast precisely at 6:40 a.m., finished at 7:10 a.m., give or take, and went back to the room to collect their belongings. At this time, the 2 front desk attendees of the morning shift had arrived, as well as our bellboy. Plus, there was me, my colleagues waiting to punch and go out. We had already started checking people out, and this day was particularly busy. We had 3 to 4 people waiting to be checked out, and it doesn't help that we have 3 computers for 4 people to work with another computer to use to check the cameras. When 7:20 a.m. came up, my colleagues quickly picked up his things and left, and I took over his spot. At this time, it was very few people in the group that started coming down, and they already had to wait since they were all checking out other people. A few minutes later, I got the first one, but told them I couldn't check them out since I don't speak Spanish, and asked them to wait for my colleagues to become available. In the end, I ended up refusing to service 10 or so people, which started forming a line right in front of the front desk, which only grew since other guests assumed they were in line to be checked out. My colleagues on the morning shift were not happy at all. The guests were less than satisfied, and when the first of our reservations people showed up at 8 a.m., I logged out, punched out, and went home. By that time, there was a 20 people plus line, waiting to be checked out by 2 overworked receptionists, only one which spoke Spanish. In the ensuing poop storm that happened, the hotel's director arrived at 8:30 a.m. in an attempt to minimize the anger of the human centipede who formed at the front desk, started chatting with the guests and otherwise trying to distract them so they would be less angry and avoid giving the hotel a poor review. I got a mild chewing out by my manager for poor work ethic instead of being written up. True to his word, he backed me up for the director call and HR for a meeting regarding my actions. You can't demand someone speak a language that you know they don't know, right? I still haven't gotten my bonus for speaking Spanish, and I let my manager know I will not be speaking any Spanish while on the job until they give in and give me my hard-earned bonus. Wow, that was a really good story. I was not expecting it to be that good. He got some really good revenge on him. Like, that is some of the best workplace revenge I've seen. But hey, they told him he can't speak Spanish, so he didn't speak Spanish, and that's what he did exactly what they said he couldn't do. If I was in his position, I would probably be doing the same thing. I would be like, no, I don't speak Spanish. You said I don't speak Spanish. It still sucks that he hasn't got his bonus for it. And now there's probably like a little bit of fuss in the workplace. But hey, what are you going to do? Sometimes you got to stand up for what you think is right and not just give in. Even if it's like hindering other people. You got to show people that you shouldn't be walked on. And $100 is really nothing to a big company. It's really absolutely nothing. But the last story is, you want me to see a doctor? As a teen, I worked under the golden arches of McDonald. I was treated like poop on the daily, always catching the poop jobs, getting rotated at the last minute. It was Saturday night and I got off my shift and went to a house party. We drank and drank and drank like teenagers do, British teenagers. And come Sunday morning, I was hanging. 9 a.m., I was heading to the bus stop. My phone rings. My boss kicking off that I'm not in work. He altered the rota early this week and I hadn't noticed. Me, I'm too ill to be in. I've been throwing up. Boss, that's funny because the manager from the next town over just saw you at the bus station. Me, seriously, I'm genuinely ill. I should be okay tomorrow. Boss, no, you need to go to the doctor and get the all clear to come into work. Well, okay then. This is the UK. Doctor's appointments are free, so I booked one for the next day. I tell the doctor the problem. I got drunk on Foster's and threw up, and then he asked me for a note declaring me fit for work. The doc explains this is not an NHS covered thing outside of mental health, and as my employer requested it, it would be a chargeable item from the practice. He asked who the employer is, and suggests that I should really require this. I call my boss from the doctor's office. Me. The doc says the certification is a chargeable thing. Boss, I don't care. Either get a certificate to return or don't come back. The doc hears and gets to work putting together a certification letter. He tells me not to worry about the cost this time. He prints it and pops up an envelope addressed to my boss and sends me on my way. I head in for my shift after lunch and hand in the envelope to my boss. 5 minutes later, he's screaming down the phone. Turns out the dog had invoiced a franchise for the cost of the service. Somewhere in the region of 200 pounds? Is that 200 pounds? I don't know what that little E is. TLDR, boss insists I get certified to return to work. Gets a bill for it. Wow, I did not know that was a thing in the UK. But hey, she got her compliance. She did exactly what she was supposed to do and backstabbed him. Well, front stabbed him, I guess. She did it right in front of his eyes. Can I have some pocket money? Because I'm a kid too. 19 years old is still a kid. I posted this in another sub a while ago and many comments said it belongs here too. Well, here goes nothing. I am 19, female, have a little brother who is 8 and living with my parents at the moment. I'm still studying, so I cannot pay rent yet, but I do earn my own pocket money from part-time jobs. My father's 3 brothers and their family came to our town for vacation for 3 days over the weekend. They have not met me for years, so it's a big gathering, and they have been planning for a long time. That plan seemed to have the members split into 2 groups, the adults and the kids. I have been arranging to join the kids group. When I tried to protest, they insist that I'm a kid too, so I just had to submit to my fate. Clearly, they just wanted a babysitter, which they don't admit, because it's not babysitting if I'm just a kid hanging around other kids. For their 5 kids ages 5 through 10 while the adults get out and enjoy the reunion. So I spent the weekend babysitting a total of 5 kids. That includes organizing games to home entertain them, bring them to the science park and the likes for outings and food out of my own pocket, and just overall watch their safety and be an adult when needed. To be honest, it was quite fun, though tiring, when I sometimes had to raise my voice to make myself heard and drag the younger ones from the back so they wouldn't stray too far. I admit, I'm not really babysitter material. The kids seemed to like me, so I guess it went well too. However, I still would rather be hanging out with the other adults, or just having my weekend to my own. When my 3 uncles' families were leaving after the weekend, they gave pocket money to each of the kids, including my brother. My father also gave pocket money to each of my cousins. Almost as expected, there wasn't a share for me. I don't really care about the pocket money, they were just a couple of notes I can easily earn in a few hours. But I'm rather annoyed for the fact that, conveniently, I was skipped for being an adult this time. Nope, I couldn't hold that down. After all, I am a kid, right? I put the biggest smile and asked politely for my pocket money from my uncles and aunt-in-laws. They were a little taken aback. I said as sweetly as I could that I deserved pocket money for being a kid. They said so themselves. In all awkwardness, I got my pocket money. Needless to say, my parents looked like they had poop smeared across their faces. I got the biggest junk from my parents after they left. In their words, I am a major, insert a swear word, to have deliberately made my parents lose face. Whatever, what's done is done. In a few days, everyone moved on. And the pocket money just spent on some vanilla cream puffs, sugar rolls, and ice cream, which we all shared in the family. In other words, it's been transformed into a tab on everyone's weight. We are certainly going to hold them for a good while, especially me, because I am definitely not going to the gym to lose them. Wow, I can't stand when you're a kid whenever it's just super convenient for the other people. Younger adults are already really confused, like 18 and 19, you're just like, what the freak am I? Like the world's telling you you're an adult, you have the freedom to go smoke cigarettes, but not alcohol. And you have the freedom to go vote. But last year you had to raise your hand and ask to go pee-pee on the potty. What the freak? I'm gonna do a small one because I think I've only done like one of these small paragraphs once before. I want to see how good they are. You guys tell me if it's good or if it's not so good. Want to be a jerk face on field day? Not a long post, but a little story for the night. For those of you unaware, field day is a day in military where after work, troops, in my case, Marines, clean the ever-loving poop out of their rooms and barracks. Good section heads will go with the looks good, smells good, it must be good policy. My section, however, is not so lucky. For those of you familiar with the military, keep in mind that my entire section has been in the Marines for over 2 years minimum at this point. So we really weren't new anymore. We know what we were doing, but for some reason on this field day, our section head, not really our section head, but just a slightly less junior guy put in charge of inspecting, PTing, and everything our actual section head doesn't feel like doing, decided to make us field day till way later than we usually do. He wouldn't leave until he found something to fail us on, no matter how long it took. Then, instead of coming into our rooms on his own, he said, "Come get me when you think you're ready." Bet. Our section decided as a whole that we were just going to sit and ride out this night until he either comes to us or gives up and releases us. It's been 3 hours so far since then, and nothing yet. Turns out, this post was longer than expected, but if you made it this far, that's the end of my rant. I'll update in the comments. Update, 4 hours after we started cleaning, we finally got released at 10 o'clock at night. He caved and came to us, so it seemed we won that round. On top of that, he couldn't find a thing no matter how hard he looked. Victory for the Junior Marines. Wow, what a jerk. Some people just live to be a jerk for some reason. I don't understand that. Like, wouldn't you rather just, be happy and like, I don't know, enjoy yourself, or I don't know, enjoy someone else's company instead of being a jerk and have everyone talk about you behind your back? But that's just me. Here's another short one. Getting back at my employer. I was told to post this here. I am contracted to work at 8:45, but usually I get in around 7:20, so I can skip the traffic. Because of this, I usually start working because why not? The last couple of weeks have been frequent server outages, so it's been incredibly busy, so I've been non-stop working since 7:20 until 5:30 with my hour's lunch break. Well, 2 days ago, I took a 10-minute break to grab breakfast at 9 AM and my boss went ape poop, saying that I would either have to make up the time on my lunch or have to stay after work. So that being the turning point, I stopped working at 7:20, instead getting to work at 8:40 and making myself a coffee before I start. My boss tried to get me to start going back at 7:20, but there is no obligation for me to go in. TLDR, my boss wouldn't give me 10 minutes to grab lunch, so I'm no longer giving 7 hours free labor every week. Wow, nice little win. This is like, I wouldn't really call this malicious compliance, even though it kinda is. I would put it more under like petty revenge. Like this would be better on r/petty revenge, because it's like, it was revenge and it was petty. And that's gonna be all for today, you guys. I hope you really enjoyed this r/malicious compliance and these like shorter stories. If you like the shorter ones, let me know. If you like the longer ones, let me know. I don't mind doing either. I try to pick more obscure stories, like ones that don't look like they have been like read that much, and ones that are like, you know, a little bit more recent. Hopefully to cut down on, you know, the high population density of people reading these Reddit stories, especially with the robots reading them. The robots can like, you can make like 5 of those videos in like 6 hours. Probably you can make like 5 in like 3 hours, honestly. So let me know if you have any suggestions on the channel. Remember to like, follow, do all that, subscribe, come to the Instagram if you want to. We're going to be doing another r/malicious compliance video. We have gotten a nice little string of these videos and I am loving it. I think it was yesterday's video, I commented on someone else's comment and was like, these videos are just so satisfying. It feels like they're just handcrafted to be so beautiful. This just in. Mr. Edit Reading here, Reddit Reading's editor. Today we're going to be trying a little bit different of a video. We're going to try doing it without any of the words popping up. And let's see if you guys like this. If you guys like this, tell me down below. If you don't, if you want me to go back to putting up all the words, let me know so we can, you know, figure this out as Mr. Edit Readings so I can know what to do for Mr. Reddit Reading videos. Thank you so much and let's get on to the video. Let's go ahead and get on to the story with You Specified the Law, Mr. Lawyer. Back in 2014, I was a support analyst for a company that made and hosted medical screening applications and healthcare registries. One of the registries for the medical implants and covered England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. It was one of the largest of its kind in the world, and as such, received a data request from organizations and government agencies from all over the world. One of my pet peeves was people mentioning the Freedom of Information Act, FOI, repeatedly, as if we'd never heard of it. And they'd put in the subject line of any attachments, and a few in the email, you didn't actually need to quote the FOI. Just ask the dang question and we'll process it for you. Annoying, but nothing major. Then one day, I got an email that sent off the inner jerk in me. The email's from a lawyer in Edinburgh, and he had done the same thing, but with a slight difference. He quoted repeatedly the Freedom of Information Scotland Act. It was mentioned at least 6 or 7 times in the email, plus the subject line, comprising about 40% of the total text. Or so it seemed. The whole email was rather blunt, demanding, a touch patronizing, and ended with a threat of legal action if we didn't comply. Completely unnecessary, and I couldn't just let it go. I did some research to check my understanding and confirm my suspicions. He very specifically and repeatedly quoted the FOIs, and he is a lawyer, so he should know the law, right? I sent him an email acknowledging the receipt and did nothing for 28 days. On day 28, I sent another email advising the Medical Implant Registry of England, Wales, and Northern Ireland does not operate in Scotland, and therefore we don't retain or process any of the data that falls under the FOIs. I ended it by saying if he'd like to resubmit his request under FOI, we'd be happy to process it within 28-day limit. Update, to add little context, all the data/statistics that we provided was just adjusted from the surgeon/hospital, because even the best implant can fail if the surgeon does a bad job. The way he phrased the request, it could easily be interpreted that he only wanted the data that falls under the Scottish FOI, i.e. from Scottish hospitals, as he opened it with a threat. I chose that interpretation, and made him wait the maximum time to tell him. If he hadn't done that, I would have called or emailed to clarify his needs. Some paralegal from his office resubmitted a request about a week later. It was much narrower in scope and politely written. It was processed in about a week. Well, that's a good reminder to be kind to people. You don't always have to be so mean and forceful. And working in customer service in the past, like I used to have to work with customers, working with people can sometimes just like get on your nerves because some people are just so rude, thinking being rude will get your way. Even though like I worked somewhere where if like any one tiny little letter or number or anything was off, I could just immediately deny and like not give them their service. It was with money. Also checking IDs if it was like anything smudged, if any of the plastic was ripped off, if there was one, you know, if they didn't have the middle name, if the birthday wasn't right, anything. If they were like super mean, I would just be like, no, I can't do it, I'm sorry. I would follow the policy to a T. But like normal people and nice people, like those small things, come on, you let that pass. But for the extremely rude people, oh, I am extremely sorry for the inconvenience, ma'am, but we are unable to take damaged identification cards. If you have another ID, I'd be happy to take that one. And they would just be going crazy. That's kind of my little malicious compliance. I would comply with a handbook a little bit too good. All right, on to the next story. This is just one big paragraph. My dad, honestly, I've been looking at her for a bit. Enjoy reading these posts of various people's malicious compliance. When I saw a few posts that suddenly reminded me of a story my dad told me back when I was about 8 or 9. My dad has always been the kind person that does exactly what you told him to. Malicious compliance, of course. As well as pretty funny, all-out friendly guy. So the story is probably set around 1987, something like that, when he's eating dinner with his mom, dad, sister, and quite possibly his older half-sister as well. His sister, my Aunt Sarah, was causing problems at the dinner table, being rude and cheeky, but my dad started up as well, the mouthy little poop that he is. Anyways, my grandma was already dealing with Sarah, and she did not want to have to deal with him as well. So she bluntly and quite frankly told him, get your butt in the room. Of course, when he was told this, he immediately goes into his room like requested, but instead of going in the room, my dad just stuck his butt in the doorway of the room and called down smartly, I've got my butt in my room. You only said my butt, so just my butt's in my room. Needless to say, his mom was not happy with that, and he got in trouble. But I say it was well worth it, don't you? P.S. This kind of stuff that my dad continues to pull, even to this day, much to my mom's chagrin, but my siblings and I quite enjoy it. The old, I will take this 100% literally. My wife loves to do this. That's good. That's something I would do when I was a kid. I was an annoying little kid, I'm not gonna lie. On to the very next story. Sure, let's ruin this expensive electrical equipment completely unnecessarily. This is a story that my friend John told me. John works for a utilities company that has a contract to install energy meters in domestic households across the country. His division covers an area with a population of about 2 million people. Every morning, he looks at his little company iPad to see if the list of his jobs has gone off in his van to remove the old meters and install the new ones. The company has a very ambitious target for all households in the country to have all these new meters by a certain date. As it goes with companies that do this kind of work, they regularly get audited. The employees' vans get checked for safety, the meters and equipment get doubled and triple checked, and so on. That fateful day was an internal audit for that locale. It was a beautiful April morning when the engineers covering John's area turned up to have their vans and equipment inspected. There were many people in vans, and John had to wait a while for their internal auditor, Mark, to approach. He pronounced that Mark left a trail of puzzled faces in his wake. "Alright, mate," Mark said. "Can you just unload the meters from your van and put them on the ground in front?" John said, looking at the April sky. "Really? I mean, it looks like it's going to rain." "Nah, it'll be fine." "No, really, the forecast this morning said that there was going to be rain. And also, the sky's looking a bit cloudy." "Look," Mark snapped, "I have loads of these tests while you guys are indoors being quizzed. Just do as I say and leave them on the ground." As he moved to the next guy, John made incredulous eye contact with another engineer, and they both shrugged as they started unloading the meters. Sure enough, as they sat in the conference room doing their knowledge and aptitude test, it started pouring, like really coming down. A few minutes later, Mark ran in, grabbed one guy, and they went outside. John is not only a responsible person in general, but also happens to like his job, so he spoke up. "Shouldn't we all go out there and help?" The manager in charge of the test says tersely, "Mark only got that one guy." John shrugged. "Alright." After they finished what they were doing, they went back outside. The hundreds of electrical meters were still on the ground, and Mark was still running around, looking a little nervous. John called him over. "Mate, what are you doing? None of these are usable now." No, Mark said. "See, the ones that you put upside down will still be fine." A few other engineers came over and stared. "Mark," John said, taking him by the shoulders, "these are all electrical meters. They are not waterproof. Literally, none of them are usable now. Compliance would kick our butt if we even thought about putting them in the customer's home." "You do realize," another engineer said, "that because you insisted we dump our stuff into the rain, no one in this area of 2 million people will have a meter to fit in at least the next 3 days? As Mark looked around him, the reality of what he'd done dawned on him. John later described the color of his face to me as just pure gray. 6 months after John first told me this story, I asked him what happened to Mark. He said no one had heard from him again. Edit, someone brought up this comment, so I thought I'd add it to the main post. John and the other guys aren't engineers in the technical sense. They don't have engineering degrees, and they don't do any technical planning. However, their job title is meter engineer, and so I refer to them as such, out of familiarity. Hope that clears things up. Well, Mark is a jerk. Mark probably got fired, boom, on the spot. He might have like called up his boss, confessed and got fired, or went on the run after he damaged everyone's stuff from 2 million people. I might just run away too and cower. That sucks, but hey, that shows you not to be a jerk and listen to people's good advice. Sometimes other people's advice can help. Some people who are really strong-willed have a hard time understanding that other people's input sometimes can be helpful and that you don't just always know best, you know? Anyways, I really hope you guys enjoyed this r/MaliciousCompliance video. It probably is a little bit shorter since I've only been recording for 15 minutes. Usually I'm recording for 40 minutes, so this is probably going to be cut down really small. Yes, Mr. Edit Reading again. One more little commercial break. Let me know once again, do you like it with these little relaxing images in the background with just the title? Or do you want the words to keep popping up with, every paragraph that comes up? Let me know down below so I can pick the best option for you guys and your viewing pleasure. Thanks again, and goodbye. Back to Mr. Reddit Reading or whatever his name is. Mice helped me fire my wicked step manager. Long post warning. I added all the background because it makes payoff so much better. The universe aligned, the stars just right for me in this story. My old coworkers and I still talk about it. Backstory. I was working at a popular coffee chain in high volume, swanky location as a barista. We were specifically trained to make fancier novelty drinks compared to other locations. I loved my team and my manager, and for the most part, everyone got along. Then, my manager informed us that she would be moving to another location, and that we would be getting a new store manager. This new manager, who we all call Jack, is an old assistant manager from this location. He trained here before becoming the store manager of his own location. Jack would be returning to be our new manager, since he had the experience in these fancier stores from training days. Everyone in the store dreaded his return. For what I gathered, Jack was an a-hole when he was an assistant manager. Within the first few weeks, things went downhill. He started writing up certain baristas constantly for infractions that others got away with. He slashed everyone's hours from full-time to part-time, claiming that our job description never stated we were entitled to full-time. One barista went from 39.75 hours a week to 16.5. Jack claimed our company had no write-up expiration date, so he was writing up baristas based on clock lateness within our time management software from when our old manager still ran the store. People went from a clean record to a final warning within one meeting with him. Those who had worked with him before organized themselves into a list of who would get fired next. We didn't suspect that there was a personal vendetta against certain baristas who knew him when he was an assistant manager. We knew there was. One by one, several people were fired, all in the order they knew they would be fired. Others found jobs elsewhere. It became a race against the clock. Either quit or wait to be fired for something trivial. We brought up these issues with our district manager, but he ignored them, slashing our hours and getting cornered, including cutting corners on cleaning standards. From proving to be beneficial to the district manager, he was not interested in helping us. I was badly burned by our drip brewer. He refused to help me fill out workers' comp report. He was too busy placing weekly orders. I had extremely bad cramps in my thigh and went to urgent care. I was one of the last walk-ins in the clinic and left after they closed. When I sent him a picture of the doctor's note, he googled the location from the letterhead and claimed I faked the note since the place was supposed to be closed. Jack belittled me and other baristas on the cafe floor. My mental and physical health suffered. When one of my good friends was fired, I quit with nothing else lined up because I feared I was either going to break down or get fired. This friend, Anthony, got me a job at my current workplace. After Anthony got fired, he struggled to make ends meet with just one job. I helped him out by preparing large batches of food and dropping them off at his workplace. I met his manager and got an interview with the following week. I had been working at this place for probably 2 months when the most magical thing happened to me. The incident. I finished the closing shift of my current job and was passing by my old store, closed for the day, when I saw 2 mice running around the lobby. I filmed it. I guess cutting corners and cleaning the health standards was causing a bit of a rodent issue. In a rush of pin-up anger, watching my team get fired over nothing, watching Anthony struggle to eat, suffering at the hands of Jack myself, I posted the video to Instagram and tagged the store in it. I posted photos and links to the video on Yelp, Google reviews, the company page, the customer compliant email, everywhere. I figured at most I was going to be the fly in his ointment and annoy him at the district manager. Then I sent the video of the mice to the Department of Health. A couple days later, the Department of Health served Copy Shop a notice saying they were preparing to do a full inspection. I hear this news from my barista friends. A couple weeks go by and my current job has a turn in management itself. We weren't getting our legally mandated half-hour breaks, and I am put on a 9-hour shift with no meals. Thankfully, HR was much more sincere than the coffee shop HR, so I arranged a meeting. I stopped by my old coffee shop before my meeting to say hello to a few friends who still work there. I noticed Jack and the district manager were there. I grabbed the water and sat down to organize my HR meeting notes. Not even a half hour later, the shift supervisor approaches my area and tells the cafe customers to leave, as the health department has shut them down. She turns to me and says, "Yes, it was your mice. They found out we had an infestation," then walks away. Jack and the district manager don't make eye contact with me. I gleefully return to my current workplace to tell Anthony about how I was actually there to see the justice happen. Justice that I started on my own hands. He tells my coworkers. Even my managers find out I shut down a whole store from one report. HR catches wind of the story before our meeting. It had never been in a more polite, apologetic HR meeting. My managers were reprimanded, and we had all breaks restored to us. All the departed, fired baristas took pictures in front of the Department of Health shutdown notice that was taped to the store door. The windows were shuttered up, and the place was vandalized several times. They started the cleaning process, and the inspector returned to clear it again. About 2 weeks after the store shut down, I got a call from the coffee shop's HR department. Apparently, whenever they have something like this happen, they look through the records of the store. During the mass exit and the seasoned baristas and the complaints made to the district manager and HR, they had a novel about my old cafe. The HR rep asked me why I left, and the first words that come out of my mouth are, "I left because Jack the manager," and the district manager is complicit in his actions. They call all the ex-baristas and a couple current baristas for their stories with Jack, all negative. Jack was fired and banned from working with the company. He packed up and moved across country. The fancy location was taken from the district manager, and now he only oversees basic cafes. I got promoted in my current job to assistant director of the site to oversee HR complaint overhaul to improve the workplace, based on my knowledge of OSHA and state labor laws. Anthony and the other 5 baristas were offered their jobs back, which Anthony accepted. He's in a better financial situation now. TLDR, after quitting my barista job because of some really bad management, I filmed mice in the cafe and got the store shut down by the Department of Health, which resulted in an investigation that got the store manager fired. Wow, that actually, kudos to you. That is some great revenge. Like, that is some revenge that you would I wish I could get that type of revenge about when I was working at Wendy's. Wendy's was like my first real job when I was still kind of a younger teenager. Oh, I wish I could have done that to them because I hated working there and I hated those managers. They were so mean. Like, the first thing that they would do to new people was, "If you're gonna cry, get it out now," because they were so mean. They were like, "You're a little B, aren't you, huh? Shut up, you little B." And you're just like dumbfounded, and they talk to you like that. And the new cashiers and the new workers would be like, "Oh my God, these people are so mean." I'd feel so bad for people that would come in and cry. I wish so badly that could have happened. I wish I could have got that kind of revenge. I'm like living through this story right now. Good job to you. Alright. Enough praise for that last story. Let's see another one. You took $200, you lost $21,000. So most users of computers will probably have some experience with us. You know when you're online shopping and sometimes a box pop-ups and says click this, promo code, sign up, yada yada? Well, we know they are scams. By mistake, I first clicked the wrong X. They put a fake one on the top and I clicked it. I immediately shut down the page and I thought that was the end of it. Nope. So the site I bought a Hanukkah gift I was getting for my mother sold my credit card information to the pop-up. I activated that when I clicked the wrong X. I was a teenager, relatively new to checking account. I checked my statement for December and it was all well. I didn't check for the next couple of months because I didn't use it for anything. There should be no charges. I know better now. When I did check, I noticed that these small insignificant charges weren't mine. Always less than $10 and usually around $2. But the multiple charges added up and was well over $200. When I looked into this, I found the connection. I called a thieving company and told them they stole my information and are illegally charging my card. They didn't deny it, but they also didn't care. I wanted my money back. They refused repeatedly. I gave them so many chances to fix everything with just that. I eventually warned them that I would have to sue if they didn't want to give me what they stole. They laughed. Turns out there was a class action suit in progress, which my lawyer used as leverage in a quick payout. We sued for fraud and violation for federal communication laws. What they are doing is very illegal and happens every day. This included a lot of popular stores and websites, which were 100% in the wrong and committed a crime. And I was a child who brought her mother a gift. I won the case. I received a judgment of $21,000. I told them it would go away if they just refunded my $200, but they refused. They seemed to think of teenager threatening to sue a massive corporation that does nothing but break the law wasn't much of a threat. What they should have noticed, I was buying a Hanukkah gift. Hanukkah. Everyone I know is a lawyer. Good job to you. I got scammed one time on Amazon when I was a kid. What I did was I bought this, like, I thought it was like this extra awesome diamond, like it was like super pure, and they like were saying they had like an abundance of diamonds and they just needed to get rid of them for super cheap. I think I spent like $150 on it, and they were saying it was like a $10,000 diamond. And like I go to bed that night, I wake up and I'm like, oh, I hope my diamond shipped, I hope it's on the way. I go and look, the listing is gone, like it's gone from all my Amazon history and stuff, but like the money is also taken out of my account. And I was a teenager and I was still doing like my first job, so I didn't know what to do. I thought like, well, I just lost. I wish I would have like known. I could have just asked for a refund or called my bank or something, but I was like maybe 16 or 17. I was just like, God dang it, I got scammed. I used to be pretty gullible, actually. To another note on that, this one like government program or something like that said if I send them $300, they'll send me $500 back for like a grant. Like, and this was like I was new in college too. I think I was like 17, and like I was like, all you need to do is send us like $300. We'll give you like 5,000 back. I was like, wow, that's a really good deal. And this is like some kind of government thing. They cannot scam me. So like I asked my mom about it, and I asked my sister, and they were like, you really are trying to get scammed like that? They're like, you really that dumb where you're gonna get scammed? I was like, this can't be a scam. I looked it up online and I was like, I was really that dumb. Okay, enough of my stupidity. Let's read one more this is one little paragraph of story. Someone did not give me their end of a trade, so I spent the next 2 years getting them stiffed in trades and losing them a lot of money. Back like 3 or 4 years ago, when I played Magic the Gathering, I traded with this one guy for a card, Ugin the Planeswalker, which at the time was worth like $50. It was a fair trade, and me being dumb 15-year-old, I was like, let him promise to bring the card the next day. He was 1 year younger than me and went to the same store. Well, he never gave me the card, and what was I gonna do about it? Bring it to small claims for a $50 card. After a few months, I acted like I forgot about it and acted like his friend. This guy is pretty dumb and always relied on me and other people who looked up the price. So whenever he wanted to trade with me or someone else, I would always volunteer to look up the price, and I would always add like 25% to the other side trades. I did this for like 2 years until a few months before I moved to college. He wanted to sell his cards to a store, and I learned that over time, he had slowly traded his valuable collection away to the value of pretty much a bunch of cardboard. I laughed so hard when I saw this. I let him know that I had sold about 90% of my own collection online for a bit over $4 grand, and then told him what I did, and never talked to him or went back to that store again. Wow, nice, quick and sweet. I like that little revenge, just subtly over time scamming him, not knowing that he's like losing money over and over. Never be a scammer. People aren't as dumb as you think they are, except for me when I was doing that where I thought I was gonna get $5,000. But this is not about that. But man, that sucks. I like buy and sell Pokemon cards a lot too. Actually, I just passed the $1,000 threshold on Mercari for selling Pokemon cards. I can't say I probably wouldn't do the same thing if that happened to me. I did not feel bad for that guy at all. Wait a minute, where was I? This is literally like an hour later. I started playing with my dog out of nowhere. I think this is the end of the video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you guys have any suggestions for subjects you want me to cover, just let me know down below. I always take excuse me, suggestions. I hope I see you guys next time, and goodbye, my lovely.